Alright, today we're going to be servicing a Husqvarna Svartpilen 401. Under the rear seat of your bike you will find a toolkit that I'm hoping has everything that we'll need for today. So the toolkit has the hex key required to take these bolts off the heat shield. Once you get those 3 bolts out, you can then just pull it off this slot here. This appears to be the location of the drain plug. I would like to point out this is another reason most mechanics end up hating engineers. I would like to imagine that the accountants are the reason the engineers couldn't come up with a better solution than to put the drain plug right above the exhaust. But anywho, so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna start the bike up to get the oil warmed up so we can get it out a bit quicker. So it turns out that there's actually 2 drain plugs on this bike, and the second skid plate has to be removed as well. This contains approximately 3 screws on the right hand side of the bike, meaning the throttle side, and then there's an additional 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screws on the other side. It's easiest to get to these using a 1/4 inch drive with a 10mm socket and an extension. So yeah, the toolkit that they've provided won't be enough. What you then want to do is get a 13mm socket onto a, well, either a 3/8 drive or a 1/4 inch drive would work. And then have an oil pan right underneath. So this is the drain plug with the mesh filter attached to it. So what I'm gonna do now is spray some degreaser on just to give it a decent clean without actually having to take it all apart. The second drain plug is a 18mm socket, which I have now drenched in oil. Truly an ingenious design that leads to oil going all over the exhaust before it makes it to the oil pan. Well done. There is a second mesh filter which has to be pulled out with a pair of pliers. Thankfully that came out in one piece. I'm not going to hold that in front of the camera just yet because it's dripping with oil, but as you can see, it is about time that we did a service on the bike. That is also an alarming amount of swath on the filter. Very yucky indeed. So we're just going to give this a quick spritz with degreaser before we put it back in. Looking much better now after being sprayed with a few rounds of degreaser. So what I'm gonna do now is just tilt the bike, take it off the stand, tilt it a bit more. This just really helps get rid of those tiny remnants of the old oil that would have been left over. And since the bike has done about 8,500 kilometers since its last service, I really want to get all of it out. Got there eventually. The two mesh filters have been removed and cleaned, and the oil has been drained. So now we're just taking the two 10mm screws out to get access to the paper filter. Just pop that out and we can see the filter there. I'm gonna assume we use pliers to get it out, but I guess we'll see. So because the filter is quite recessed into this hole, I suppose, it's quite tricky to get out. So what I did was I used a timber screw and hammered it into the filter, and then just plugged in a very small Phillips, that is a 1.4mm flathead. So yeah, basically just the smallest flathead you can find, just put it into the hole that you create. But yeah, so that's all out. I guess we'll just get the last bit of this oil out, then get this fresh filter in, which we managed to pick up at Super Cheap today, which thankfully was only $13. But what I've been learning from this experience is that I assumed bikes would be easier to work on because they're a lot smaller, and imagined everything would be a lot more accessible. But in fact, I would say servicing a car would be a lot quicker than servicing this bike. Alright, so the next step, or rather the final step, is to add the oil in. Now, the filler cap here is not that big, but we can still make a standard car funnel work for us. Right, hopefully still visible from that angle. So we need to add roughly 1.7 liters in. So I'm just going to eyeball it. We have 3 liters right down here. So roughly 2. So far we put 1 liter in. Side glosses are annoying. Please bring back dipsticks. Now just go enjoy your bike.